I'll call the meeting to order. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we approve the agenda, I'm going to ask all of our people in the audience and those watching to bear with us. We're on a new platform, so we're all kind of learning as we go, and there may be some hiccups. 1.3, approval of agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Do you have them all?
Patrick's, yeah, he's,
Where's Jim?
well, who's swapping the screen over?
I'm doing this.
So they can see the vote.
In a perfect world, you would all see our vote behind us.
On either one of mine, I didn't get the push out.
You didn't vote.
I haven't got the little thing to push to vote.
Would you like to vote yes?
I mean,
That's what it's waiting for.
All right,
yeah,
go over and
Okay,
check
I'm
out
gonna put you
Greg
in.
out.
okay.
Motion passes. There it is, 6 to 6. There it is.
All right.
Okay.
All right. That will bring us to 2.1. Appointments of individuals and agencies to certain school district functions for 2025-2026. I make a motion to approve items A through V and all attachments.
I'll second.
I'm gonna click yes.
Sending for
Would anyone like to discuss any part of it, or? Okay.
This looks like it's the one with the people.
All right. We have nothing for 3. For 4.1, request to speak, we have 2 speakers tonight. First will be Kristen Schultz, followed by Sam Dominguez.
Reading from my phone, so this is a first for me. I didn't print anything out, so
start it right when you start.
when I say, okay. Good evening, board members and Dr. Huff. I'm here tonight to share my concern with our district's continued lack of transparency to its stakeholders. Every other district in our region has been proactive in releasing clear public-facing information on how the current administration's cuts to federal funding will impact their students, staff, classrooms, and operations. While our district has sat silent, aside from a small blurb in a random news article behind a paywall, surrounding districts have shared explanations with visual data and charts that will help families, staff, and taxpayers understand in detail what's coming. I've worked with some of you, some of the members of this board previously, and I remember that we often touted the phrase proactive rather than reactive. But I've yet to see that put into practice. I believe this delay is intentional. It's not a lack of information or because our staff is incapable. It's because our leadership, this board, and our superintendent continually choose comfort over honesty. The cuts coming to public education are real, they're measurable, and they will hurt our students. But rather than empowering the public with information, you've chosen to stay silent. I respectfully remind you that the district does not exist to serve your political agenda. It exists to serve children and the community, and withholding vital, factual information simply because it may paint your preferred political figure negatively is not leadership. It's cowardice. We deserve better. We deserve full transparency. We cannot save public schools if our leadership is not honest and forthright about what these cuts will mean for our community. not just in the immediate, but in the future as well. Our students deserve a board and especially a superintendent that puts truth over politics.
And that will bring up Sam Dominguez.
Shorty over here, I'm gonna lower this. Okay, kind of adding on to what Kristen spoke about. As of July 1st, Gardner Edgerton is facing a federal funding freeze totaling $131,154. This is not hypothetical. These funds were already earmarked to directly support our students and staff. That includes $83,000 in Title II funding, which helps pay for teacher training, professional development, and recruitment and retention, critical tools for keeping our great educators in our classrooms. Another $17,000 in Title III funds support English learner instruction, language curriculum, and family engagement, resources that ensure every student has a fair shot at success. And finally, $33,000 in Title IV funding was intended for student mental health services and academic enrichment, services that are more important now than ever. Just to be clear, these numbers came directly from the Kansas State Department of Education because our own school district hasn't made any effort to share this information with families or staff. We had to go find it ourselves. The board has a clear obligation to our students, their families, and our teachers to be fully transparent about how this will be addressed. We need to know what the contingency plan is if this freeze continues to the school year, which is only a month away, what programs might be at risk, and how you are keeping parents and staff informed. This is about trust and leadership. Silence or vagueness or vague reassurances aren't enough. Our community deserves honest answers and a clear plan moving forward. And I would love to stop coming here and having to remind you that you owe your duty to your students and your teachers and your families first.
All right, we have nothing for 5.1. That will bring us to the consent agenda. 6.1, BOE Committee Information and Structures. 6.2, minutes of regular meeting held on June 9th, 2025. 6.3, financial statements. 6.4, memorandum of understanding approvals. 6.5, approval of claims. And 6.6, approval of contracts and purchases.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have nothing for 7. For 8.1, we have Dr. Huff, Superintendent Dr. Brian Huff.
Good evening, all. Welcome to the first day of the new school year. We're looking forward to another outstanding year with our kiddos. So the speakers were very appropriate in timing because one of the things I did plan on talking about today was indeed the federal funding freeze. We are indeed looking at about $130,000 of reduction in funds from what was promised to us from the federal government through title funding. Sam Dominguez did a good job of going over the details, so I won't do that again. But I will say this. Title funds have been around since the 60s. That is generally how we get federal funding, is through those series of title funds. There are some other funds that came later, but most of the federal funding was originated in the 60s. This is something that our school system depends on. We get about 4 or 5% federal funds. The rest come from state and local. The vast majority of our funding comes from local funding, which we do appreciate. We are going to be able to absorb that $130,000 into the general budget. We are not planning on any sort of reduction whatsoever in services or staffing. And so that's really what our public needs to hear at this point in time. Now, as we always do, we'll evaluate the importance of those programs moving forward. As we do with all of our programs from year to year, we have no plans in reducing anything as far as what we would give in services to our kids. We are fortunate enough through the good planning of this board and my team that we're able to put quite a bit of money into contingency each year. We'll just put a little bit less in contingency for this next year, and we will continue to maintain those programs that both of our speakers have highlighted as very, very important to us. We do find that they are incredibly important to us moving forward. So the other thing I wanted to touch on is just a big thanks. We lost a very important member of our community this last week, Gary Dugan. Gary Dugan used to be a member of this board back in the late 90s, early 2000s. He was board president for, I think it's 4 years, and has been a continuous supporter of this community over the years. We just wanted to give a shout out to him, and a big, giving our condolences to the family and their loss to a very important member of our community. So that's my message for today.
Thank you, Dr. Huff. 8.2, comments by the Board of Education.
Yeah, this question might be for Amy, but I think in the future, I would like to know or see what, if anything, from the general fund will have to take a hit or get less of as we have to cover those things that are now not being paid for with the funding freeze.
Is it okay to answer now? Is that appropriate?
If you have the answer,
Okay, that's
yeah.
fine. We do have the money in contingency, so that we will be able to cover that. This is a small amount for us, which is fortunate. We also have been instructed by KSDE to go ahead and budget for these in our state budget, so you will see this as federal funds when we come next month with the state budget with the legal max and everything. They're hopeful that this is a pause and not a reduction for this year. So we are continuing to spend those funds appropriately, and then we'll be able to cover them with that contingency should it become necessary.
Okay, so it won't come out of the general fund bucket per se. It'll come out of this contingency, like savings.
That is the plan at this time, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm a little disappointed with what was presented just a moment ago. There was a graphic that was suggested to be shared from a board member, and oddly enough, it's almost word for word what Ms. Dominguez shared. It's inaccurate. The dollar amounts are completely accurate, but the reason that it was withheld, the graphic that was suggested by a board member, not the district, was withheld is because it was misleading. It was unnecessarily, both speakers said that they didn't want politics in it. It was purely for politics. So it's not being held from teacher with training, recruitment, or retention of highly qualified teachers. It pays for 60% of 2 staff members. That's staff. That's not any of those other things. Obviously, it could impact other things later, but that's not what it's for. That's what's so frustrating. Just the wording of that graphic was the reason that we wanted to look at other ways of being transparent, getting it out, and also to not be reactionary. Wanted to make sure that we had more information to hand out, which I thought we were coming with tonight, but we just said what Sam said was correct when that's not what was shared with us in email. So I apologize that we didn't just push out the information that was incorrect. If that was all we were going to do tonight, then that's what we should have done to begin with. But it would have been nice if we would have actually explained like what we got in our email, saying everything that was going to impact, the total dollar amount for everything that we spend and everything. So very frustrated.
Amy, I got another question for you. When we did get that graphic, I asked for an explanation on, it seemed off to me, and I wanted an explanation. And you had verified that everything on the graphic was accurate. Can you explain what Greg is saying, what part of that graphic was inaccurate?
I don't recall the actual graphic, but the information that I had provided was that the way we do use the Title II funds and have used for many years is to address class sizes. And so it is 60% of 2 teachers' salaries that we used last year because we had to add teachers 2 sections. And those 2 teachers wouldn't be the same 2 teachers this year anyway. It's based on a year-over-year type of thing. The Title III funding is ELL. It's used for professional development and for curriculum supplies, which we would then just put into our bilingual fund this year if those funds don't become available. And then the Title IV is for mental health supports. Sources of Strength was something we did with it last year. It does pay for our part of our Johnson County co-responder. But again, these are all things that we're still committed to making sure continue to happen. We will just use other resources to make that happen this year. So that's what the funds were used for last year. And every year we do have to go through a process to with KSDE, where Christy and Heather help me with that and apply for how we're going to use those funds. And it is to, it's not to supplant the things, it's to add to what you're doing. So it's not to take the place of something else. It's above and beyond is what those funds are to be used for.
So if we did not have the contingency fund to fall back on, we would not be able to cover 60% of those 2 highly qualified teachers' salaries without the funding or without the contingency fund?
We wouldn't pull back on those specific salaries. We would just find other places we wouldn't spend as much money that maybe for various reasons. Again,
We'd have to
it
take
is a
from
very
something
small
else
part-
to be able to do it.
Exactly. But again, we're planning for those funds to be there at this point as per KSDE's guidance. And if they're not, then yeah, we have contingency, or we have a fair amount of time to make some decisions of maybe we wouldn't, we'd push off a contract for, say, renewing something to the next fiscal year. There's ways to navigate. Again, this luckily is a very small part of our budget at this point. So that's where we are. We're grateful that it's not more.
Yeah, I think probably more rural districts are probably going to be more heavily impacted.
Districts especially that are higher free and reduced will definitely be impacted because a lot of these title funds are based on socioeconomic conditions.
Right. So not entirely inaccurate in what those funds cover and what those services cover, but maybe we're not happy with the semantics of how it was phrased.
It's purely the wording, absolutely. And I thought that we would come in today and explain how that was going to impact our families and our citizens and work together to make a game plan or at least have that healthy, honest conversation. But that didn't happen. That was exactly word for word what was from Olathe, and mostly word for word what came from KCK that, the majority of this board had said we weren't comfortable with, and we were going to actually give out real information and data today and how it was going to impact. That's my frustration. It has nothing, the numbers are 100% accurate. Is that it was supposed to be explained properly, not with propaganda, which is exactly what you guys said you didn't want, but that's what we got.
Amy, off the top of your head, what percentage of our budget is this?
Is this specifically? Less than 1%.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to add one quick note to follow up on just a couple of the speaker comments itself. And I do think it is critically important when we have administration decisions that are made that are beyond our control, that we very concisely convey how it is going to impact the decisions that are within our control. And that's where we're at with this. And I understand kind of the thought from here, but at the end of the day, it is real money that's going to have to come. And yes, we have contingency for that, but when we talked about this at the last meeting, when we dwindle our contingencies, then we're making ourselves vulnerable in other ways. So this negative trickle down that this creates, I think, is something that we can't minimize. And to Ms. Schultz's point, we have to make certain we communicate in a place that there are the most eyes. And what I was frustrated by this week was that we didn't convey anything in social media where the highest number of eyes are going to be. We did want to use newspaper articles and provided information for that, but they are behind paywalls. Great reporting, but behind a paywall limits your audience in a terrible way. And even tonight, if we were to share a lot of information that would be within one of our meetings, which is a great venue to do so, limited eyes. Look at the YouTube results. We are not reaching the audience in the way it needs to be done and conveying the information in a place where it's easily digestible and to hit the most amount of eyes to work against what we will see as negative connotations and disinformation. The more information we can put into more places and the faster we're able to do so, we will be able to fight back against that. And that's my frustration from the week and the message I shared. We could have put something out. We could have tweaked that message. We could have done something and already been ahead of this instead of. So that's where I wanted to express my frustration beyond the politics of the decision itself, which obviously I find to be incredibly destructive and short-sighted. So I guess I did offer some comment to that. I'm sorry, I can't hide all of it. But even then, that is beyond our control. But the pieces that aren't, and what Amy's already shared with us is, here's how we will have to control it locally. We have to convey that to folks, and folks have to know what we're working on and planning in order to do that. So that's where it came from there. So those are my thoughts on that. I did offer also on a completely separate note, thank you to Deb for all your work to get us to this point with the meetings. I know it was a tremendous amount of learning that you've had to do for this. Hopefully this is going to work well for everyone watching online, but thank you, Deb, for those efforts to get us to where we are right now. And to the technology staff also, a lot of rollout for us to be able to work on it.
I just want to add to that. I completely agree with getting this out to the public. And the plan is, so this mimics a graphic from another district that truly is filling this cut. The way it's going to be put out, was going to be put out, makes it appear like the sky is falling. So the plan, I believe, was for Dr. Huff to release something on social media in his newsletter with these exact numbers, but explaining what our impact was, which is less than 1%, and we have the money to move around and accommodate for it.
All right, so as you can see, this has been an interesting few days trying to find the good messaging place. And everybody up here wants there to be a good message. I think part of what we want to try and do, and I'll speak for myself here, is we do want to try to remove the politics out of it. And we want to make it as accurate a message as possible. And so what I'm hearing tonight, and it's not too late to try to correct what we're saying up here, is we need to expand on the message. And this is what I'm hearing from Greg. And I do want to honor that. The most important part of my message tonight, the part that I came with and wanting to make sure that we conveyed appropriately, was that there is no reduction in services, staffing, or any of that for our students, and that we will take this money out of contingency. That, to me, is the most important part of this message. Now, the part of the funding, as far as title money goes, it is specified for how the federal government does specify exactly how you spend it. It does get political right now, and that's fine. We want to stay away from that, and whether the cutting of the funds is appropriate or inappropriate is a discussion for another day. But as we sit here, we can get this message correct. And so that's why I'm asking Greg, what part of the message do you want to hear, or do you think we should convey right now? Because now would be the time for us to correct it.
So to me, the biggest thing is, again, not to discredit any of it. Any kind of cutting is going to be impactful, and it's something that we as a community need to figure out on all of this, how we're going to accommodate it, whether we want to continue on with certain services, not ELL, but the mental health. We have that mental health is specifically the co-responder. So the mental health programs and everything that we do, not necessarily the issue, but the co-responder. But the biggest thing is that the $545,000 that we spent on ELL services is still going to be there. It's the $17,000 that is missing from that was going to be the issue. That's why I didn't like the graphic. The graphic, $17,000 to anybody, me, is a lot of money. And it's still a good amount of money, but when you look at it from the perspective of $545,000 is spent towards ELL, it's not as big of a number now. Now we're not thinking the sky is falling. There was so much that you shared in this email that really truly explained what this goes to, how it's done in our district, and potentially the impacts that it would actually cause to the district. And that's what I thought we were going to present tonight, which is why, like Tom said, I was fine. I would have liked to have seen, like he said, something go out a little sooner, but I was fine waiting if we could make sure that it was accurate, the full picture information that we were getting out. I was fine waiting with, but that's not what happened. So
And that's okay. It's all correctable. And sometimes it's hard to discern exactly what folks are thinking about over email and text. And so what I am hearing is that maybe a message that's more similar to the second email that I sent to you guys, sent out as a newsletter, which my newsletter doesn't come out for a little while. But that might be a little bit more palatable by the board. And we were fine putting that together. And as Greg had mentioned, and Tom as well, and I'll reiterate again, the reduction of funds does not mean there is any reduction in programs or services. And actually, this is about 0.1% of our budget. I mean, it's not just less than 1%. It is 0.13%, something around that. It is not large, but 130,000 is not insignificant. As you mentioned, it's still a big number. The 17,000 for ELL service, still a big number, but we are able to absorb it, and we will, because these programs and services are important. And part of what I hope that is, well received by our public is sometimes the consternation, the wrestling with an issue like this that our board goes through, and I appreciate that wrestling. And at the end of the day, we want to have a message that is appropriate, that doesn't sound like the sky is falling, but still does get the meat of the message out there. And so we'll continue to work on that, and we'll expand on that message that we can put out in our next newsletter.
I think with the false information or disingenuous information that was shared tonight, it at least a good portion needs to be added to the board briefs tomorrow. I don't think waiting for your newsletter is appropriate. It doesn't need to be the full massive detail that it sounds like you're going to do, but something needs to come out that explains everything in more detail, at least with the board briefs that'll come out, tomorrow?
They will, but who is the audience for our board briefs? We don't send that to the entire public, do we? No.
I'm sure it'll be shared.
Yeah, and so that's fine, and that's
Newsletter's actually is ready to go. Just waiting for a few enrollment details. So
good.
If that's the desire, that can go out this week too.
All right, we'll.
That does get sent to the parents.
I think we can. I think we have good direction from the board at this point in time. I mean, am I seeing anything that any other comments that need to be put in place? So.
Nope, just open and honest, factual
Yeah.
communication. Nope, keep it non-political.
Well, and I
would-
think
I would
beyond-
like to also just point out one other thing.
Go ahead.
This is why we need to continue to increase our contingency fund. We have contingency funds for a reason. Fortunately, we're really not going to have to hit it, but we do really need to focus on increasing that. We're not where we need to be, in my opinion.
Agreed. And actually, one of the goals of our finance committee is going to be to set a specific number to shoot for. And we have that in line. And you're exactly right. That smooths out some of the unknowns. All right. I think we have our charge. We'll get some more information out.
That will bring us to 10.1, discussion action on changing the location of the September 8th, 2025 Board of Education meeting to the green space in Edgerton, Kansas.
All right. We have been, and I'll give credit to Greg, went and toured the green space at the open house, came back and said, we need to have a board meeting there. And actually, I think it might have been suggested by Don, our mayor in Edgerton. But at any rate, I went up and talked with Don and Beth. They thought it's a great idea as well. We'd like to do the September board meeting at the green space, and that'd be the same time that our Edgerton elementary kiddos are presenting. So it ought to be a fantastic time.
I really appreciate you guys working on this. This is something that Don specifically, but several citizens in Edgerton have been asking for us to do for quite a few years, even when I first ran years ago. So I really appreciate that we've made some movement on it. That Edgerton has a beautiful place we're gonna get to present at. So with that, I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
That'll bring us to 10.2, Bond 2025, safety and security upgrades, camera systems.
Okay, board members, Mark DeWitt is going to give me the honor to speak to this, and considering how important this is and the dollar value associated with this request, I'd like to review some prepared comments here just so you can kind of understand what's gone into this, as well as the community can see it as well. We're pleased to bring this item to you for consideration. It's an immediate and tangible example putting our bond dollars to work for our staff and our community. Credit to Mark DeWitt, Mark Meyer, and Andy Price for doing all the upfront work to get us to this point. Following their lead, the district conducted a comprehensive evaluation of multiple camera systems, interviewed several vendors, and ultimately is recommending the Axis camera platform. This recommendation was presented to the Facilities and Construction Committee on April 23rd, during which time the committee previewed the system, and Axis staff member was there to show us all the bells and whistles and how everything worked. This platform is known for its high resolution imaging, multi-sensory capabilities, and will seamlessly integrate with our current video management system, making it the backbone of our security system. Okay. As the cameras will only be as good as how and where they are installed, the Ops and Tech Department collaborated to issue a request for a proposal, that's what you're considering tonight, to install the new cameras to 15 qualified vendors. A mandatory pre-bid meeting was held on June 4th, followed by the public opening of 10 submitted proposals on June 12th. That's an incredible response, okay? Following a thorough evaluation process, Electronic Technologies, Inc., ETI, was identified as the lowest reasonable and responsible bidder, submitting a base bid of $900,770,741. The Finance Committee reviewed and also recommended approval of that bid at their July 7th meeting. Installation is scheduled to begin later this month, aligning with all of our other district projects and the uses of our facilities. The project includes installation of cameras at 19 district sites and will deliver over 1,100 unique camera views. These next-gen cameras are multifunction and will provide a robust interior and exterior coverage across all of our campuses and facilities. The project does not include or require any annual subscriptions, licenses, or software updates. That's a positive. Although this camera system is well known to perform for 7 to 10 years, we will budget accordingly for a replacement cycle starting in year 5. Okay? This is a very important and worthwhile investment, in our opinion. Are there any questions?
I did just want to offer a quick comment. You know, Tom and I sat in the presentation when they came and displayed the technology that comes along with this software, and I'm not sure what number to put versus what our current standing is, but 10x would be me underselling that by quite a substantial matter. The amount of not only coverage, but the technology within the coverage within our existing areas is exponential. And it's going to make a huge difference in, you know, student safety, public safety, even onto the fields and things when we get into our public events. So this is a great way to see the bond money put into action fairly immediately and make a really significant impact for just this first year of the bond initiative itself. So I thank you for all that work, Mark, to pull it together, for the vendors' work. And then, like I said, I'm sure Tom might have something else, but it was pretty open your eyes when you looked at the technology and the way they could model the camera views and other things through that we haven't had. That's going to be fantastic.
I appreciate you guys putting it together, being part of the bond process. This was one of the first and easiest things that everybody had pretty high on their list when we kind of shopped all of the things that we could do with the money. This was almost always pretty high at the top, and they wanted the best system. They were willing to give up certain things so that they could get the top tier instead of the second. So definitely appreciate you guys doing that. And if you don't have anything, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, that'll bring us to 10.3, executive session for land and property acquisition.
Try 15.
Motion to go into executive session to discuss potential properties for land acquisition pursuant to the exception for preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property under coma, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 6:50 PM. The board would like to invite Dr. Huff, Dr. Booth, Dr. Marshall, consultants, Mark DeWitt, and Amy Drogemeyer into executive session.
Second.
Back in session. And 10.4, executive session for personnel.
Okay.
7 o'clock, 6:59.
Motion to go into executive session to discuss the human resources personnel report pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:00 PM. The board would like to invite Dr. Huff, Dr. Marshall, Dr. Booth, and Mark Meyer into executive session. Motion to go into executive session to discuss the Human Resources Personnel Report pursuant to non-elected personnel, exception under coma, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:15 PM. The board would like to invite Dr. Huff, Dr. Marshall, Dr. Booth, and Mark Meyer into executive session.
Back in session and on to 10.5, action on personnel. Disregard what I said. Give it 2.5. I have some commentary to add for you.
Motion to go into executive session to discuss the human resources personnel report pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:18 PM. And the board would like to invite Dr. Huff, Dr. Marshall, Dr. Booth, and Mark Meyer into executive session.
We need to revise that. It's 7:17 right now.
7:21.
I'll second it.
Do you have to type that in every time?
I have to copy and paste it and then change the time.
Holy moly.
All right, we're back in session and on to 10.5, action on personnel.
I make a motion.
I'll second. We're having a standoff.
Oh, gosh. I promise. You don't have to
My
give an
microphone's
explanation.
All right, 11.1, adjournment of meeting.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Twelve point one, the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Monday, August 11th, 2025 at 6 PM here in the board office.